Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I'm thrilled that you're here. And I know you're going to get tremendous value from the young man I'm interviewing today. His name's Jason Lee. He's in San Diego. He's actually a real estate broker in San Diego. He's done a ton of real estate, a couple of $100 million in transactions, but he's also an operator and has $30 million worth of assets in San Diego, which is pretty impressive in its own right, just because that's a very expensive market. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, Rod. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So why don't we start the way we always do and just, do a whole lot better job of introducing yourself than I just introduced you, and just talk a little bit about maybe where you came from, why real estate, maybe even, why you got into real estate, and just kind of bring us current.
Yeah, most definitely. I come from, my dad was in the Army. I come from a U.S. territory in Seoul, Korea, where my parents met. And then basically when I was 7 years old, we left South Korea and came to a small town in California in the Bay Area called Clayton, California, about 20 minutes from Oakland, California. And my parents, we come from a very lower to middle class background. My mom jumped around from jobs. She had a language barrier, so it was tough for her to get any good job out there because Korean was her first language. She had to learn English very late, so her accent was very heavy. So I saw her struggle a lot growing up, and my dad jumped around from being a security guard to a police in San Francisco. So money was a big issue growing up as a kid. So I think that trauma and seeing my parents struggle, my mom's business fail, seeing that happen really made me want to give back to my mom and my dad and to really be able to provide for my future family. So that's when, I didn't realize that until I went to college, and my whole life, my mom said that I was going to be a doctor because, Asian parents, of course, they're going to tell you to be an engineer, doctor, or a lawyer. And my mom saw that my dad's sister was a very successful dentist and my uncle was a successful anesthesiologist. So in her mind, I was going to have the most stable, high-paying job possible, and that was to be an MD. And I think my breaking point was 3.5 years into college. I just couldn't take any more science classes. If you're listening to the show, if you've ever taken organic chemistry, you understand my pain, how terrible that class was. And that was the class that made me go into a different career. And luckily, it ended up being real estate. And that was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, was changing my major, meeting my old mentor, interning at his company as a commercial real estate agent, focusing on multifamily, and then eventually building up my own portfolio and starting JLM Real Estate, which is my brokerage as well.
Fantastic. What was the, so that was like an epiphany, really. That was one of the questions I like to ask, any epiphanies that you had. So you realized organic chemistry, I can't even spell organic chemistry, and I couldn't even imagine doing a class in organic chemistry. So, I'm joking, obviously, but it sounds painful. But how did you decide on real estate? How was that introduced to you? That's the question I wanted to ask.
It's a great question. So I knew nothing about real estate up until I started interning at that company. I didn't know what an escrow was, title, didn't know how to get a listing. I didn't know any of the terms.
Well, but before that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but before that, what made you decide to intern in real estate? What made you decide to shift from being a doctor to real estate? Was there a book? Was there someone that you talked to? Was there, if you can recall? If you can't recall, it's fine. But was there something that pushed you in that direction to even want to intern at that company?
Yeah. So I was getting there. So basically, before the company, after I changed courses and didn't know what I wanted to do, I was looking at every single potential option at my school. So I was looking at being a financial advisor. I was asking friends in my fraternity, seeing what their parents did. And a lot of the most successful people that I saw, they were all either in real estate, owned their own business, or had some sort of rental properties. So I knew there was something in that direction that might pique my interest. And after joining it was honestly luck. After joining the real estate society on campus, that's when like my eye opened up. It wasn't a book. I know 99% of people that say they got into real estate read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Never even read that book, but it was all just through networking and meeting people at a really rapid pace because I was so nervous on what I wanted to do after I basically changed my whole course of my life.
Sure. And you got your mom looking over your shoulder as well, so you better come up with something quick, right? I'm sure there was some pressure there. Love it. So you went and interned. I'm sorry, let's continue the story. So you went and interned initially with the brokerage, then you sold real estate for the brokerage. And at what point were you like, hey, at what point did you come to the realization that if you just stayed as a broker, which a lot of people do, in fact, I just interviewed somebody else on the show, and I'm sorry, I got interviewed on somebody else's show, and he has a lot of brokers on his show, and I said, what are you thinking if you're not investing? You're in the perfect position to invest, right? And I'm sure you came to that realization, but at what point did you come to that realization?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think people that stick to only being a broker are really limiting themselves. I think true wealth is built in investing in real estate, not selling it, because when you sell real estate, I'm in California, so I'm getting the IRS in California is taking 30 to 40% of my commission. So it's hard to survive when you don't have tax benefits through owning real estate and depreciation and cost segregation. So I just saw how much money my clients were making, and I was finding really good deals off market for them. And then I was relisting them at a way higher price. So I just saw how much money they were making. I saw the cash flows. I was underwriting properties every single day. So I saw the numbers and they worked. I know a lot of people in California or that think of California say that numbers don't work, but here in San Diego, I've seen people do very, very well for a very long time. And that's basically what it was. Following my clients.
I think I was looking at your bio, and this caught my eye where you've got $30 million worth of real estate, but it's only 65 units. I'm like, holy crap, what is that per unit? And compared to, some of the stuff we buy in Texas and Florida and Ohio and Kentucky and everywhere else, it's like, those numbers are pretty staggering. So, but, that's the thing about this business. It's all numbers. And so, it's empirical. And if the cash flow and the rents make sense and the NOI makes sense, and it doesn't matter what you pay. I get it. So, and like you said, if you're just a broker, you're only as good as the last deal. And so, it's always painful for me to see people that stick there and don't take advantage of the opportunity that they have, especially being a commercial real estate broker. Now, let me ask you this question. So you say you're underwriting deals all the time. Would you say that you're pretty analytical?
I would say I'm not super, but a little bit.
Okay, because obviously, if you're in sales, you're outgoing as well. You're not afraid to build relationships, and the commercial commercial real estate brokerage, you're cold calling typically like crazy, and a lot of rejection, a lot of hangups, a lot of FUs, and so you're not afraid to do that, obviously, but you're also okay with a P&L and normalizing income and expenses and so on and so forth. Yes.
Yeah, that's all back of my hand.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. Well, I will tell you, that's that's an absolute superpower, because a lot of people are either one or the other. And, to be a good multifamily broker, you absolutely have to be both, because you're selling and you're doing analysis. Now, there are a lot of brokers out there that, we'll get a pro forma from a broker and it's basically toilet paper because they don't really know what they're doing. But, a lot of them do know what they're doing. And so, it's really a superpower. So, how old are you now?
I'm 26.
26. That's pretty freaking amazing, brother. I salute you, my friend. And you've basically got, the portfolio, actually a $50 million portfolio. I think it's a different number somewhere else. So you've increased it, which is really impressive at your age, man. So how'd that come about? What give us some of the pain and I call them seminars. I don't call them failures or setbacks. But talk about a little bit of that journey. How did it happen?
Yeah, I think by the time, so I started as a broker or as an agent in 2018, and by the time I got to the end of 2020, I'd probably saved up enough money to buy a couple properties. And unlike most people that have probably been on your show, I've raised very to little money from partners to grow our portfolio really quickly. We use debt because my partner, basically, that I found through selling in properties, he runs a hard money debt fund, and I was the guy finding the deals. So our partnership was perfect. We'd put 15, 20% down on smaller properties, sold them for a huge profit, and we do a 1031 exchange into bigger assets. But when I first started in late 2020, I bought a 4-unit property here in San Diego, and I tied up under contract 4 other properties to buy at the same time, and I could only buy 2 or 3 of them. So that's when my partner came in and really started our journey, and we grew very quickly. We bought and sold 16 properties in 2021. 2022, we bought and sold 12 properties, and we were constantly flipping them, refining them to grow really quickly. And I found deals that were probably 30 to 50% below market value. So we were able to grow our portfolio really quickly.
Nice. Good for you. And that's not typical. Typically, people will raise the money, but so how did you utilize the hard money piece in these acquisitions? Did you just borrow what would normally come out of pocket, the equity, or how'd you put those? Give us an example of a deal like that.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So we bought $1 million property here in San Diego. It was a 4-unit property, needed a ton of work. We worked with a local bank that was a really good bridge lender in town. And at the time, the bridge rate was like 5% IO for 2 years. And that loan was 70% LTV. So we had to put $300,000 down, or 30% down. And out of that $300,000, we would do a second trust deed or a second lien on the property for about $100 to $150. And then my partner and I bought the property, each coming out of pocket $75K each. And then the rehab was about another $100K each out of our pocket. So we were into it for about $1.2 million, and it sold it 3 months later for $2 million. And that was just, yeah, it's like one.
That's a nice flip. That's a nice flip. Yeah. So the bridge lender allowed a second mortgage behind their first, which is sometimes that's difficult, but that's good. And by the way, guys, IO is interest only. If you didn't understand, he threw a couple acronyms around. I want to make sure you were tracking it. And so, well, that's a sounds like a screaming deal, the one you just described, and I'm sure it got piqued some interest in my audience. And did you find that your kicking the bushes and looking for deals and cold calling and all the things you do as a broker to find deals, did you find that it's a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Did you find that helped you in finding deals for yourself? I know the answer is yes, but right, obviously it did. Yeah.
No, it didn't help at all.
Yeah, right. So let me ask you this now. You've actually got both qualities, because typically some of the greatest partnerships I see are somebody that's analytical with someone that's outgoing. You've got a little bit of both. Did you have any mentors? Or I think I asked you this before we started recording. It was the broker that you went to work for, correct? That was a mentor for you?
Yeah, so he was my first real mentor in real estate. He taught me how to really understand the lingo, how to talk to clients, how to sell, how to present myself, how to underwrite properties. But I think I had 5 or 6 other kind of mentors, right? I developed really good relationships with some of my clients that I was selling a lot of properties to, and I would just ask the right questions. So I think if you're a broker watching the show and you want to learn from someone, just talk to some of your best clients who built a great portfolio, and if you bring them value by bringing them deals, selling their properties, they'll want to help you out. So I just used the broker card and brought value first, and then asked questions on how to grow a portfolio. And I learned some really amazing information from doing that.
Sure. No, that's really good. And I will tell you, most of my audience is not brokers. And so, how do you reposition what he just said? Well, the bottom line is adding value. If you focus on finding deals and you align with people that are doing this business, and bring them a deal, you're in, and you can have a piece of that deal. And my warriors, my coaching students, are just killing it. And most of the deals that they do are done between warriors. People are bringing each other deals and doing deals together. It's very, very exciting, and it works very, very well. So, here's a good question. I do clips every week on my podcast called Own Your Power. They're motivational clips. We talk about goal setting, visualization, motivation, things of that nature. So sometimes I like to ask my guests, where do you get your drive? What's the why? What's making you jump out of bed every morning and conquer the day? So tell me what that is for you.
Yeah, I think that's changed over the years. When I first started, I wanted to just really give back to my family. I thought growing up, I was a problem child. I caused my family a lot of issues. I'll save the details, but I just felt like I had to really give back. So when I first started in real estate, I just really wanted to retire my mom. And I'm proud to say that I'm well on my way to doing that. The past 3 Christmases, I've given her over $100,000 worth of cash, and I bought her a 3-unit property here in San Diego in Oceanside that cash flows somewhere around $3,000 a month. So I've helped my family tremendously, and I'm continuing to do that. But that's not enough for me. I want to help a lot more people than just my family. So by coming on here and educating people on the power of real estate, that anyone that's young can also make it, that's one thing that really drives me today, is to kind of share my message and share my education that I've built from my clients with people, and also to really use the wealth that I've built to do some good in this country. I think I want to do much bigger things than just be a successful real estate investor. Like, I'd love to have an animal sanctuary. I'm really passionate about animals, and I'd like to try to help the homeless problem here in San Diego. That's why I'm looking into affordable housing, because I don't think anyone should not have a roof over their heads in a country as wealthy as America. There's obviously a problem with politics.
Don't get me started on that. Jesus. Oh, it's a travesty what's happening.
Yeah.
Especially in California. It's absolute travesty. You drive down the road, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you something, buddy. Again, I'm more and more impressed with you every time you open your mouth. And I will tell you, and guys, I hope you're getting the memo here. You've heard this when I've interviewed my warriors, my students, and almost every single one of them comes at it just like this gentleman, in that it's not just about themselves. It's about making the world a better place. And the fact that you're already thinking along those lines is just super impressive at your age, buddy. I just really want to salute you, because power moves to those who serve. And I could give you countless examples of this. I remember, I had about 900 people in a boot camp in Denver, and we did a Hall of Fame for 10 of my most successful warriors, and not just success in number of units or anything like that, just success in life. And we did a little PowerPoint slide for each one of these warriors, and we gave them an award. It was really cool and all that. But there was a pattern. Every single one of them does something philanthropic. Schools in India, sexual trafficking, veterans homelessness and suicide. I mean, just on and on and on. I was like, guy, I was telling the 900 people in the audience, that's a freaking clue. And Jason, you're another example of a clue and as to why you're successful, because it's not just about you. Good for you, man. So what do you think has helped you the most with your success? What do you think is you told me your why. I mean, I think what you just did, the why is a big piece of it. But anything else come to mind as far as why you think you're so successful?
Yeah, I just want to highlight that having a big why is really not enough. It is a big reason for my success, but that alone will not let anyone be successful, because even if you have the biggest why in the world and you're very passionate about it, if you hate what you do on a daily basis, you're going to burn out and you're going to want to quit. So I think the other big piece that really led to my success was really loving what I do and being passionate about it. I think if you're someone who is in something just for the money or just to do something big, you're not going to enjoy the journey. And life's about enjoying the journey. And that is what I've been able to do at the same time. And I lost sight of that for a second there, but I think really what life is about is, yes, doing big things, but you have to enjoy the journey and love what you do in order to make it and do big things.
No question. I literally just said this when I was interviewed within the last hour. I literally said it almost verbatim to what you just said. Because when you love what you do, work is play, and you never work another day in your life. And you also said passionate. If you love what you do, you're going to be passionate, and you have to be passionate to influence people. And so you're going to have to influence sellers, brokers, investors, so on and so forth. And if you love what you do, it's effortless. And if you love what you do, when you hit a speed bump, you're able to be innovative and creative and push through it and get around it. It's not as dramatic as if you're doing what you hate. And so guys, and I tell my students this, I tell my warriors this, listen, if you get into this business, and by the way, I believe you can learn to love anything. You can associate pleasure to pieces of it. Like I tell my students, consider it hunting for buried treasure, which is really what it is. But if you can't learn to love it, for God's sakes, go do something else. Life is too freaking short. And I think that's what you're saying, right?
100%. Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah. So, what words of wisdom besides the ones you've already shared would you share with us? I have a lot of my listeners are aspiring commercial real estate investors. They know they want to do this. They haven't, because of limiting beliefs or fear, or maybe they're comfortable, they haven't taken action yet. What might you say to somebody that's thinking about this and hasn't pulled the trigger yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my best advice to that person is just remember that everyone has been in your shoes before. Everyone's been in that place where they had 0 properties, where they were scared to buy their first one. They were nervous on when to get started. But with the amount of great education out there, like your podcast, YouTube channels, so many books, access to so many people just through LinkedIn and other social media platforms, there's so many resources you can leverage to buy your first property, to get into the game. Even if you have no money, no experience, if you have the hustle, you can find a way to do it. So I think a lot of people let the analysis paralysis stop them from buying their first property. But after you buy your first one, your whole world, your whole mind just opens up to so many more possibilities, and it gets easier and easier every other deal that you close because you learn from every single deal. So I think just getting that first one done is the toughest hurdle, but after that first one, you will skyrocket if you want to.
I see it with my students all the time. It's like the law of the first deal. It's 6 months in, it's 8 months in. They're struggling. They haven't got a deal. They're whining to me. I'm like, get off your ass, go, keep going, make it happen. And then they get that first deal. And the next thing I know, they've got 4. I'm like, what the heck just happened? And it's that law of the first deal. It's the scariest, it's the most stressful, it takes the longest, and then you get it and boom, you're off to the races. So listen, although you're young, I'm sure you've got some war stories or some, I call them seminars, when you got your butt kicked, you got your butt handed to you, a setback. Talk about if you can think of one that maybe has a lesson that you can share as well, or if not, anytime someone shares things that have happened that haven't been quite as successful, a setback, it's always helpful. So anything come to mind? I'm sure you've got tons of them, but anything come to mind?
Yeah, so many failures, so many seminars, as you call it. I think the biggest one that comes to mind is the moment I almost quit this business. And that was when I was in my first year of real estate. I had gotten my license in August of 2018, and it had been about 6-7 months, and I hadn't made a single dollar in real estate. Oh. I was cold calling every single day, banging the phones, knocking on doors, sending mailers, doing everything possible. And then I finally get my first listing. I'm on top of the world. It's a small little one, 4 units for $800,000 here in San Diego in City Heights. And at the listing appointment, everything goes well, but I realized that I'm sitting with the son and the wife, but the owner of the property was really sick in bed. And the meeting went really well. My broker and I, we got the listing, walked out happy. But then I get a call from the son a day later and said that his dad passed away from an illness, and there was no will, no trust for the property. And the property went to probate. And if you don't know what probate is, basically the property is now controlled by the state, and it's going to take a year or 2 worth of legal work to get it out of their hands into your families. And basically that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to call it, I'm done. But something in my gut told me to stick with it, and I'm so glad I did. And that's when I first found out that success and failure live right next to each other.
Yeah, I tell the story. I got to meet Sarah Blakely, the billionaire owner of Spanx, the women's undergarments, hold it all together. And she started with $5,000 and now she's, in the Forbes 500 as a billionaire. And she told me at a mastermind we both were at that her dad used to ask her and her brother on about a weekly basis, what have you failed at this week? And I thought, what an awesome freaking question to ask your kids. You don't have kids yet, I assume. You're still single or are you married?
I have a girlfriend, but we'll be engaged soon. Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. But I thought, what an awesome question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. They just push forward. And you're right. They're very, a lot of people don't know this. I built 28 businesses so far in my career, several worth tens of millions of dollars, most spectacular flaming seminars, right? And we fail our way to success. So great answer. Is there a book that you like about the business that you've gifted, or, if people ask you, what's a good book to read? Is there one you like more than another that you've gifted? You say you never read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Obviously, everybody knows about that one, but anything else come to mind? If not, it's cool. But if there's one that you like that you'd like to mention.
Yeah, first book that comes to mind, I think real estate is not just a real estate business, it's more of a people business. And I think How to Win and Influence Friends is the most influential.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah, Dale Carnegie. Fantastic book. Yeah, great book.
Yeah, sorry. Yep.
No, it's fine. And that book, I'll tell you, what's great about that book is the basic tenet of that book is just to have a genuine interest in who you're talking to. And ask questions. And when you do that and people are answering questions, they think it's the greatest conversation they've ever had in their lives because they're the ones doing all the talking. But, that's a good one. Great answer. Do you have a favorite business tool that you use in your business, a tech tool or anything like that that's not in a brokerage side, on the operational side or acquisition side? Anything come to mind there? And if not, it's cool, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, honestly, just a simple Excel sheet is my best friend. I'm happy to share my underwriting template, but just having a really good underwriting sheet through Excel is just like the most powerful thing because it really speeds up your acquisition process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I've got somebody on my team that made a killer one. Killer. It's better than anything out there we give our warriors. But so let me ask you this. You went and did the brokerage. You almost gave up on it with that estate. Oh my God, I totally knew where you were going with that the minute you said it. He died. But at what point, did you push through the fear to actually take action and buy a deal? And how did you get past the fear?
Yeah, I think that fear, I remember it like it was yesterday. So the fear it's really tough to get over because I think the first point I want to mention is that no matter how good a deal is and no matter how well the numbers work, there's still going to be something that comes up in your mind that gives you an excuse to get out of the deal. And that's what's happened to me. I just couldn't, I found a great deal. It was off market. It was listed by an old property manager, didn't know what values were worth. I called the owner that lived like 400 miles away that was looking to sell it. So I knew it was a great story, great deal. He inherited it. And the numbers were amazing, so much value to be added. But I just realized that there could be so many things that go wrong. I mean, the foundation needed to be replaced, the plumbing was messed up, the electrical was messed up, the roof was nearing at the end of its life. So I was taking on a huge construction project for my first property, and that scared the crap out of me. And I almost backed out of the deal. But even with so much padding in my numbers, really putting like the highest construction budget possible, the numbers still looked amazing. So I think having a great deal and really padding my numbers and being really conservative just made me go, you know what, I have to do this. I know I'm scared because it's my first time doing it. So I think being conscious of my feelings and my emotions and also knowing very confident that I was buying a great deal was the two things that made me get into the game.
No, great answer. And I'll bet you had some seminars on that deal too. If you had a lot of construction, I'll bet you had vendor issues and everything else on your first deal. That's a given. And by the way, guys, I don't recommend that you do a heavy value add like he just said on your first deal. I don't recommend that. Now, obviously it worked out for you, but that very often can be your only deal you do because you get so many things that can pop up. I can't tell you how often I've heard people that have taken on a big project and then they dig in and there's so many more problems they didn't know about. And and as a novice, you'll miss things. And so, but the numbers made sense. The numbers make sense. That's fantastic. Let me ask you this. Are there any quotes that you live by? Any favorite quotes, anything that you reference, and you may not have any, but anything that comes to mind that causes you to, get back on track or motivate you in any way?
Yeah, I'm probably going to butcher it. I don't know who it's by, but the quote that I've always lived by is that if you take your failures and don't take them as a failure, you take them as a lesson, and you let every lesson lead you to success. That is the way I live my life. And I don't know the exact quote, but it goes something like that.
No, it's this base thing, same thing we just talked about. You fail your way to success, and that's okay. So no, that's a good one. Well, listen, brother, I appreciate you coming on the show, and very motivating to see, a 26-year-old with $50 million portfolio doing all the things that you're doing, pushing through any fear that you have to make shit happen, and it's very impressive, and it's absolutely my pleasure to meet you, buddy.
Thanks, Rod. Really appreciate it.
So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now, again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.